let's work on rigging the back hoses. We won't need to get intricate at all with the rig for the back hoses. We'll actually be able to be just fine using one bone for each hose. So we'll go to our joint tool and we'll go to our side view, draw out a bone at about the center of the hose, hit enter to lock it in place, and we'll move its position so that it's centered with the hose. Alright, just in the X. And then we can resize this. Let's say we also bring this to a radius of 1.5. And we'll rename it. We'll call this BN _L _ hose. From there we want to make sure it's going to be parented to the chest. So with it selected, we'll select the chest and press P and mirror. Okay, well now that we have this, let's go ahead and work on making control objects for this. Now we're going to be doing something slightly different. I'm going to show you another technique for making control objects. What we'll do is start out by making a circle, and let's move the circle out of the way, only in the Z, and we'll scale it up. Once we have a pretty decent size for it, we can freeze its transformations, we can delete its history. We could also give the circle a name. We'll call this CC _L _ hose 01. And now we'll duplicate a few others. Okay, so with it still selected, we'll press Ctrl D, duplicate, or with this duplicate, we'll rotate it 90 degrees in the X. We can freeze this, and then with this selected, we'll press Ctrl D again and rotate the last so it's 90 degrees in the Y, and freeze this as well. So what we're left with is a curve that looks like a joint. And what we'll be able to do is have the option of selecting whichever curve, and it will select all of them. So we're going to learn a technique, really fun technique for doing that. First off, going to our outliner, let's make sure we rename our duplicate curves. The first one we can call PC for parent curve, okay, because we're actually going to be parenting this underneath our hose, okay, our main curve, but it's not going to be by a regular parent. Okay, so we'll call this PC hose A01. Copying this name, we'll go to the next one that we duplicated, paste, and switch A to a B. Alright, now that that's done, we actually want to not parent the object itself, but rather its shape. So you first want to make sure under display that shapes is turned on so you can see the shapes of each object as you open them up. Now that that's done, starting with our first hose here, the A hose, what we'll do is go down to our command line and we'll type in as follows. That's parent space dash add space dash shape, and then what follows this is the actual shape name. So we'll copy the shape name for the A shape, we'll paste it, and before we hit enter, we first want to select where we'd like to parent it to. So that's going to be our main hose curve. So with that selected, we go down to our command line and hit enter. Now watch this. If we were to select this A curve and delete it, notice its shape is left behind. And also notice this, if we select it, it actually is selecting our main curve. Isn't that really cool? So here's another technique again for making control objects. Okay, you could get really creative with this. Alrighty, so that brings us to working on our B shape, and we don't need to copy its name, we could just replace the A to a B. So with our main hose curve still selected, just this hose curve, we will go ahead and go to our command line, hit up arrow, switch our A to a B, and simply hit enter. So now we're able to take our B curve, delete it, notice its shape gets left behind, and we're left with this control object. Very nice. Alrighty, well now that we have this, we can reposition this. With it selected, we'll go to our move tool, hold V, and snap it so that it's aligned. We can shrink this down. Okay, so it's just wrapped around the hose of the character. And if you'd like, you can switch to your reference mode. Okay, we'll wait for it to update. And once it does, once we're able to see the texture, we can maybe scale this down a little bit more. And then freeze our transformations. And simply get rid of our scale and visibility. We will be able to translate and rotate this object. From here, we can go back to template mode. We'll duplicate the object. And let's go ahead and move it to the other half. From there we can go ahead and, well, not freeze the transformations, but actually only freeze, translate. We'll use our freeze, translate, rotate, meld button. Okay. Alrighty, now that that has been done, we can rename this. Okay, that's R, and then that's actually 01. And we'll make sure that they'll both be parented to our chest control, so we'll select both, hit P. They'll inherit the colors, so we could always recolor these. We can start by going to the right, or the left side actually, and recoloring this blue. And then the right side, we'll recolor red, staying consistent with the color that we're using on the right side. Alright, now how about the connections? What are we going to do? Well, this is simply going to be a parent constraint. The parent constraint is going to allow us to control an object's translate and rotate information. So we'll select our control object, select the bone for the left side, go to constraint and select parent. For the right side, we'll select the right control, shift select the bone, and go to, again, parent. Okay, so we'll be able to move these bones wherever we'd like. Excellent, so that is the setup of our controls here, and they're already going under the right group because we've parented it under the chest control. So that basically finishes our task for the hose. And now our rig is pretty much done. We have come a long way. We've got a lot of things set up for it that are going to work very well for us when it comes time to animate our character, which we're going to get to sooner than you know. Now, with all of these things done, again, we want to address our global control. If we were to open up our groups and go to the global move, okay, our move and our rotation, just fine. But what we don't want is the ability, again, for the animator to either squash in the X or Z, but rather have just one attribute that he's working with, he or she, to scale this character globally. So that's what we're going to focus on in the next lesson.